The topic I chose for the final project is incarceration and healthcare. America is a leading country with the highest incarceration rates in the world. Approximately 2.3 million people are held in state and federal prisons and jails. This population consists of most low-income, people of color, and those with disabilities. This mass incarceration also affects the family of those who are incarcerated financially, mentally, and physically. The United States criminal justice system holds more than 2 million people. Out of 100,000 residents, 573 people are arrested per year. 2 in 5 people are incarcerated with a history of mental illness. Around 200,000 to 300,000 women have been incarcerated from 2005 to 2019. Majority of the women in prisons and jails are in their reproductive years, around the age of 34. And approximately 2,000 babies are born and taken away within 24 hours. Less than 1/3 of these children are cared for by their father during their mother's incarceration. Most are cared for by another relative. Outside of the United States, there is a prison mother-baby unit, or MBUs, that are common, but in America, it is rarely an option. There are many ethical dilemmas that arise involving health in state and federal prisons and jails. Mental health issues in and outside of prison and jails. According to Health Affairs by Project Hope, around 20% of prison inmates have a mental illness. 30 to 60% face substance abuse problems. These percentages increase every given year, and now approximately 50 to 75% of male and females experience a mental health problem. This can also be connected to rehab. Some individuals have more severe types of mental illness, including psychotic disorders and major mood disorders, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depression. As for physical health, poor ventilation, overcrowding, and stress may create chronic health conditions. An example case involving health is the case of Estelle versus Gamble, where the court found for the defendant because it viewed his failure to receive proper medical care in prison as inadvertent, which meant that the deprivation of health care in prisons is constituted as cruel and unusual punishment, which is a violation of the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. Pregnant women I discussed in the previous slide. As for costs and copays, in most states, incarcerated people pay medical copays for medication, physician visits, and other health services. These copays are around $2 to $5. These fees are given to reimburse the counties for the high costs of medical care for their population. These costs can prevent the sick people that are incarcerated from getting the help they need. For basic necessities, 15% of incarcerated people experience homelessness in the year before admission to prison. Homelessness is often the result of criminal justice involvement, and in turn, people experience homelessness that are criminalized for living their private lives in public. People will go to prison in a situation where they cannot access basic needs such as shelter, food, and water. How are religious and theological persons or perspectives addressed? You may never know the reason behind why a person has committed a crime. All prisoners committed a crime or how they ended up in prison. All inmates should be treated with respect due to their inherent dignity and value as human beings. Religion can offer hope and help to all of those in need. God can help replace the broken parts in people through rehab or any other ways to replace the cycle of crime with good. As for those who committed horrible crimes, you still have to remain kind to them because we're not like them. Why would this be of interest to your fellow students? I think this topic would be an interest to students because many of the inmates are just children. Approximately 250,000 youth are sentenced or incarcerated as adults every year across the United States. These children are our future generation, and being incarcerated for whatever reason, their mental and physical health should still be valued. Some inmates also attended some college or post-secondary institution. This shows the lack of education, the lack of education and how that plays a role in imprisonment. This lack of education also has ties to discrimination and access to resources. Around 11% of state prisoners are attended an institution, 24% of federal prisoners, and 14% of jail inmates. Approximately 5 million children have experienced the incarceration of a sibling or parent during childhood. Parental incarceration induces household instability and increases the risk of childhood homelessness and increases dependence on public assistance, which can also affect their health. The highest incarcerated people are Black and Hispanic people, with 2,290 Black people incarcerated per 100,000 residents and 742 Hispanic people per 100,000 residents. What reading or video would you assign as the homework? These are the readings that I would assign. First is Estelle versus Gamble, the case that I mentioned before in the previous slide. The second article that I would assign is the Central Park 5 case about 5 teenagers that were falsely accused of a crime they did not commit and had to spend years in prison. This article is about Salam, one of the victims that ended up in prison, who he shared his story on how the Muslim faith helped him during the imprisonment. You can find the documentary or the movie on Netflix on the case. The third article is about Alabama inmates and how they found rehabilitation in prison ministry. A documentary I would show is The New Muslim Cool. This is about a Puerto Rican American rapper, Hamza Perez, who pulled himself out of drug dealing and street life at the age of 21 and became a Muslim. This man in the video stated how he was close to ending up in prison because of his previous job until he converted to Islam. He is also a prevention counselor and spiritual advisor and educator for Muslim, Christian, and Jewish inmates. In the pictures here, the first one is when he was making the documentary of the film after the conversion, and the second one is a picture of him today. It is available on PBS, Amazon Prime, and Tubi for free. These are the other topics that I had in mind. They can go under some of the modules already posted on Canvas. Homelessness and the lower caste system of India and how they face burdens of healthcare can go under poverty. The health and hunger crisis in Yemen, the health crisis in Palestine due to ongoing violence against Palestinians, tuberculosis rates and malnutrition in Myanmar, obstetric fistula and in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, These can go under global health issues, Native American health disparities, the conditions and medical neglect and immigration detention centers, and the deprivation of health care and religious rights in the concentration camps for Uyghurs can all fall under health inequity and injustice.